a dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say, there's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea, I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the seven seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow, the line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow, the line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. If you cast your eyes, you'll join us like those before. We're an omen of the ocean night. When you see the Flying Dutchman, it's too late for your soul. To the waters we gave now our grave. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow, the line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow, the line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean wind blow.
Seeking power over those that oppose me. Unspeakable crime, murder at midnight. A deal I made, a life I had to take. Someone I loved once held so tight. The screams will follow me, cries of my ancestors said, go away. My offering, fasting in grain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change, I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. This form I desire, innocent blood I will devour. Ancestors gathering round the dwelling, the spirit inhabiting, evil enveloping, the dancing graves in the night, the spirit occupying and transforming, stolen heights, dark practices, my secret life, feathered outer this initiation. It's all part of the dark creation. My desires performing incantations. I walk in disguise. If I catch you, it's your demise. Shamanism, my religion, summoning spirits, manifesting myself and changing my flesh. A nightmare to behold. I'ma make you part of the fold. The skin of a man, the soul of a predator. The change is complete. This thing I become, my flesh has succumbed. My offering, fasting in brain, shape shifting. I feel the animal hiding, binding. From the ancestors crying. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one, but not the same.
Sirens of the Caspian Sea, the depths of the ocean we gather in splendor, sunken ships and treasure, luring sailors with our songs, hypnotic hymns, promises of bliss, whirling and swirling. Spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend. This could be the end. A mermaid's tale. You're mortal, so frail. Following ships in the night, catching glimpses, but can you trust your sight? In the water your blood will spill, hypnotized by your song of life, swirling and twirling, the warmth of the ocean, spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend. This could be the end. A mermaid's tale. You're mortal, so frail. I'm a figment of your imagination. Our beauty, our song, intoxicating.
The guys are outside dealing with
As the rising sun, ships running round. You come or storm, you won't see the shore. You find a resting place, the ocean floor. Swirling and twirling, the warmth of the ocean. Spinning with souls in motion. Take caution, my friend. This could be the end. A mermaid's tale. You're mortal, so frail. Swimming with the souls of men untold.
It has to be in between here and there. Okay. All right. So Let's turn the light off. Let's get going here, folks. Sorry about that. You couldn't hear me. This is a different setup than I don't know how to do this. And you can see the chat looks different too. It's completely, this is a new deal for me. I don't know what this is. And I'm not told anything. I'm just told, hey, get in there and do what you got to do. You know, these guys keep changing stuff, and this is better. I don't know. Is it better? I mean, probably not. Who gives a crap? Where is that? So, you know, if you're not from PRT, you don't know how it works. Well, how it works is that we do a show. Right now we're doing once a week, but we're going to change that. We're going to do something different. I got an itch in my back. Oh my gosh. There we go. Goodness gracious. Good thing for the antler, which also doubles as a bottle opener. It's very convenient. So if you're new to the show and you've never been to the show, usually we start about 300. Somebody was asking the other day, they're like, oh, I just sat there and nothing happened. Well, you must not have been here for very long, because eventually something happens. A lot of something happens, usually. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes we just sit here and we don't even speak. We just go. And then people, you know, give us money. Once we get the money that we're craving, then we leave. Okay, that's how it works. Because we really just want money. We're here for the money and the fame. The fame and the fortune of having a mid-level podcast. Time to write a book just about that. Just to tell everybody how great it is to be at 38, I don't know, whatever numbers we have on the show. Whatever in fact, that's a good question. What do we have? I don't know what we have. 37,860. But our sub count is abysmal. It's the worst that it's ever been. Oh, you found it. Well, you're an awesome guy. Now I can go to the jeweler and complain. Oh, you're terrible. Look what you did. I just dropped it again. All right. So let me I'll be right back, folks, and then we'll get started. We got 200 in the chat. This is going to be an incredible night. You're going to have to stick around. Trust me. All right, so let's get back to it. So let me move over a little bit. Got my ghost shirt on because it's a scary, spooky time. It's the spooky time. It's scary, okay? Very, very scary. I got a lot of shows lined up. I have a lot of stories that we need to get into. Now, here's the thing. I was in a chat the other day with some people. They have like a, what do you call that? Where you paranormal chat, or what's it called? I don't know how you.
What, a chat room?
It's like a forum, yeah. And I just kind of ended up there, and I'm like, wow, this is an actual chat room. Haven't seen these since the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, they exist. I just don't go into them. And somebody said, oh, Paranormal Roundtable. And then they began to critique that out of us. And they said, why do you have guests? Don't put guests on. We don't want guests. We want you to retell people's encounters. We hate the guests. We hate them. And so that was not the other day. That was about a month. That was during the gout flare-up that I was just like, nothing else to do. So with time on my hands, I actually did some things I normally don't do. But so I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Let's once we get ourselves in a place where we're not living in Schitt's Creek, okay, then let's get some guests and start doing some stuff. But we're going to be very interactive with the guests, and we're going to throw stories in with the guests, because apparently here people come to PRT just to hear us retell the encounters. And then they get mad if you put a guest on there. They're like, I hate that guy. I hate that guy. I bet he doesn't pay his taxes. And I'm like, why? And
I bet he beats his wife.
I guess I'll buy his book. And then they go and they buy the book, because you guys are very supportive of the people that we bring on. But then I get all these people saying that they want us just to retell stories. That's what you're good at. And so the other day, somebody sent me a story. They said, tell this one. I was like, really? This is your story? No, it's from Reddit. It's already been told. Well, I told it too, but still, it's already been told. So you just want to hear me just repeat stuff? That's what you want? You're the best. I said, okay, good. That's what we'll do. The hell with people. But never fear. We are going to try. We're not just going to bend to the will of a few disgruntled people who don't like other people. We're going to bring people on and have them talk. But until recently, we had no way to do that. Because we had a problem with our internet. It was working intermittently, and it wasn't working correctly at that house. There were some things. Now that we're moved out of that house, okay, we all agreed, and I'll put the camera on you guys. Us three, my wife, everybody involved, agreed that we were not going to talk about the stuff from that house until we were moved out. Mm-hmm. And now we are completely done with it. We're untethered from it.
And we can give you the address so you can go and mess with the neighbor.
Yeah, don't do that. But
definitely do that. Go to his house and mess with him.
Don't do it. But anyway,
made our lives a living hell.
Yeah, well, that's your take on it, not mine. So what we are thinking is now we're going to tell you, we're going to give you the real deal of what went on in that house, because it was a lot. Now, I didn't spend as much time in that house as I did in the one in South Austin. My brother is writing a book about that, and he's about halfway through it, and I started going through it, and I said, this is horrible. He said, which part? I said, all of it. Scrap it, start over. I didn't actually read it. I just picked it up for dramatic effect, and he goes, that's not even the book I wrote. That's in Eric Von Daniken. I said, whatever, and I threw it out the trash. That's how you get people's attention. Just grab a random book of yours and trash it. Don't even look at it. Just tell them, this is garbage. And that's what I did. Oh, man. And you know what? I tell you what, the place that we're staying at now, because we've been forbidden to give you the location, we cannot talk about it, but we are in the middle of nowhere. But it is a nice place, but it needs a lot of work. And my wife has come up with some ingenious ways. She's smart. She comes up with some ingenious ways to be comfortable. I would never have thought of some of these things. I thought, there's no doorknob. We're screwed. We can't close the door. So I just sat there and pooped on the floor. And she was like, you don't need to do that. Stop acting like one of the dogs.
I would have done that anyway.
Through it.
Yeah.
This floor's going on pooped for too long, you know.
It hasn't really, though. We moved in. It was terrible. I tell you what, in my defense, though, I did it in the litter box, not on the floor. The litter box was on the floor. Well, it was on the bed. But still.
It just happened to be on the floor, though.
It was by the floor. It was near it. But I still missed. But she was so mad. And she was like, why do you do these things? Why do you do these things? You're disgusting. And I told her, I said, you know now why I have so many enemies. The cabal of smart people against me. And we're still winning. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But she told me, she says, you know what, we'll just put some tape on the door. And she made this little thing where you can open and close the door until we can get a doorknob on. And she does stuff like that. She's very handy. And so today she was watching one of those videos, those do-it-yourself videos where they do they drill and you know, and I don't know a lot about all that kind of stuff, but I can tell you this. I told her too that she's all enamored with these people that can do this stuff, and I'm like, whoopee-doo. I told her, I said, if you gave me a simple thing, I mean, whoopee-doo. The guy made like a cutting board, something with he had like a scale on it in the cutting board, and then he made a. I can't see you, Tony. Move this light a little bit. So Tony's like turning his head like that, so you don't have to. There we go. We can see each other. But he had like a cutting board, and then he had like this little grater thing on there, and I immediately picked out all the flaws. I was like, how's he going to clean that grater? Then she was like, you're right. And I told her, I said, these people are not impressing me. Because you know what? If you gave me some wood, and you gave me a drill, and some time, I could totally, mess some stuff up, dude. I could make a huge mess, and you know what? There'd be wood with a lot of holes in it. A lot. I'm talking just a bunch of holes. You'd have to do something with it after I was done with it, but you would have Swiss cheese wood, and I would be asleep. That is my promise to you folks. If you send me wood and a drill, that's what I will do with it. I would make sure that you got your money's worth. Right.
Yeah, if you gave me a plank in 3 days, I could probably make a cutting board.
Let that camera go back a little bit.
Don't they already come pre-made? I mean, you just buy a slab of wood. Hey, you have a cutting board.
Well, no, because you didn't listen to what I said.
It takes about 3 days to get it correct.
He cut holes in it. He made he put a scale in it, and then he put a little hole where he just swept the trash into it. It was stupid. And then there was like a which is really dumb. If he put a grater, like a cheese grater, whatever you could grate stuff with. The grater was there, but you had to be able to take it out. You couldn't take it out. It would be hard to clean, and it wasn't you couldn't take it. The grater, the board was like in there now. Once you stuck it back in there, you'd have to unscrew it. And I'm like, moron. I just don't like it when she pays attention to other people that aren't doing what I'm doing. That's it. I get mad. I'm like a cat. What are you doing? Start pawing at it. I'm just kidding. Actually, that's her. That's her thing. Cat pawing is her thing. If I'm doing something and she just wants to aggravate me, she's probably sitting there going like, "No, I don't. I'm just messing with you, Nelly. I just want you to be aggravated right now." That's what I do, because that's how wolf do. All right. So anyway, we got obviously by the name of the title. What did you name it?
Demonic alien entity.
Demonic alien entity. So I was going through my notes today, and there was a story that was given to me back in May, and it was really epic. And I was like, I freaking just could not. I don't know what I was doing. I just blanked out, dude, and my computer was dead because you left it out unplugged, Anthony, the laptop, and I couldn't get it before the show. So we were going to do the recording of that tonight after this, and we were going to. So here's what we're going to do for you, because everybody's like, are you doing anything for Halloween? Because you're just making one show a week, and you guys suck. And so I decided what we were going to do. We're going to drop a show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday we were going to do a Halloween show. Because I know a lot of people are doing their shows on Halloween, but I just said, you know what, we'll do a show on Halloween. Why not? We'll get some people in. I mean, So I had a really scary show that I was going to do for Halloween, but then it ended up, I didn't bring it. So I said, you know what, we'll just do a live stream on Halloween. So if anybody's down for that, we can try to see if we can, get some stuff for you. We have a lot of stories that we need to talk about. I mean, some really good stuff. But, it just depends on you guys, what you want. So the other day, it was Friday. Friday, I had to go to the doctor. A doctor's appointment in the morning. And we ended up going to like 4 or 5 different places. And in 3 of those places, they knew who we were. I was completely shocked. Anthony was in shock. I was in shock. What was the first place?
The first place was at, was that Mike's place? No.
That was the second or third one. And Jason Blandis said he's free on Halloween. Well, if you're free, you can come be a co-host with me, Jason. I think that'd be awesome.
The second place was the place, the Burner Road place in American Shaman.
Yeah.
Where was the first one?
The first one was.
God dang it.
We can't remember nothing, dude. I'm so tired. I am so tired. My mind is just. Everything's focused on trying to tell this story tonight. And it's a good one. It's a pretty good one.
That's gonna bug me this whole time.
We can't remember what we were talking about last night on patrol. We were talking about the case that we were going to cover, and I know the guy's last name. I remember it, but I couldn't look it up on the computer because it was dying, and I just went ahead and went to sleep. What in the heck is it called? Well, Jason, you can jump on after the kids are in bed, whatever. Because after I'm done here, Jason comes on. And then after that, go to Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. Jason is Paranormal Soup. I was on his show last Sunday. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. And then after him is Abe Cius with Cryptid and Spiritual Encounters. Really good show comes on. And that's a real fun chat. That chat is just it's fun. It's just fun to be in there. Jason's show's great. You can just sit back and listen to the great guests he's got on there and him talk because Jason's smart as hell. But what was it that okay, so we went into American Shaman, and the lady was like, "You look familiar." Oh, we got another one of these little green dudes. Hey, buddy. And so the lady was like, "You look familiar," and then your voice sounds familiar, and I'm like, "I don't know from where." And then she started talking to me. Now she works for our friend Mike, but I had never met her before. Her name's Lauren. So shout out to Lauren. And who was it? Somebody says I could not find Jason's channel. Come on, it's Paranormal Soup on YouTube. Put the link in there if you could, guys, or whoever's admin or whatever moderating. So, is Scorpion? Are you and D in here? Because if y'all are, maybe you can help out. I don't know.
Yeah, they're both in here.
So, what was I going to say? So what ended up happening? We were in another place, and it's driving me nuts. Where did we go before that?
Somewhere.
It was a guy, wasn't it?
It was.
Oh, Sky Garden. We were in Sky Garden.
Oh, yeah. I didn't go inside for that
She
one.
was Ukrainian and Armenian. And so we talked, and she didn't know anything about her Armenian heritage. We started talking. And she says, yeah, I watch your show. I follow you. I thought that was cool. Now, I know why that is, because we had left our business card in there. And then there was another place that we went into, and they've been listening to my show for a long time. It was at my doctor's office. One of the ladies there. But that was pretty cool. I mean, you go 3 different places, 3 out of, 6 different places, and people know who you are. That's pretty cool. I'm not trying to get famous or whatever, but it's good that people follow you and listen to you, you know? So there's a lot of people who are like, hey, I know who you are. I've heard of your show. You're not just some whatever. And then they're more prone to be nicer to you and help you. Now, I've only had one time where the waiter, we were at Trudy's. And I said, hey, I have a show. And the lady goes, I know who you are. And I've never met this person. I was like, you do? She's like, yeah, I'm not into that. I don't like that stuff. I've seen your show pop up on YouTube. My son listened to it. And I look at her and she's like, I'm like this. And she's like, no, I'm waiting for a smile or something. I'm like, okay, can we get some queso? And she's like, yeah. Then she didn't come back. So apparently I suck.
Just one of those NPCs.
She was not into us at all. Nellie was like,
She was a ghost.
and she's like, too bad she's hot, huh? And I'm like, yeah, Nellie, sure. Actually, she wasn't. She had that weird, she had blue hair, it was pixied and froed out a little bit. Kind of looked like Sideshow Bob. Not really. I'm just salty. I'm angry, and she was hideous, and she was disgusting, and her breath was bad.
Well, the fake hair color.
I just made all that up. She did do that, but I don't know. She was just a normal person, and I just was mad. I was like, oh, what? You're going to be like that to me? Well, you know what? You ain't nothing but a little beep. Take your beep back to the kitchen.
Your mother was a cow, and your father smelled of elderberries.
We got 310 in here now, okay? Because everybody's always like, I showed up, and you were in the middle of telling the stories, and I'm like, then don't be late, dummy. That's all you got to do, right? Don't be late. What's your problem? Why are you being late? So, yeah, no tip. No, she didn't actually, she seated us. Turned out she seated us because they were running around ragged, whatever. And for all I know, she could have been lying to us. She could have just been telling us that she knew us. She's like, yeah, I know who you are. I don't know. So, whatever. Because her shirt, the reason it came up is her shirt was that, that Red Hot Chili Peppers, and our shirt kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
Unintentionally. And I was like, that kind of looks like a Paranormal Roundtable shirt. I have a show. And she's like, yeah, I know who you are. And then it was just Stonewall. But, okay, James, thank you for that donation. Shade Viking gave us a donation, and then somebody else did during the opening, whatever. Where's that zapper? Because there's still a residual in here. There's one that's around me. Can't stand it.
It's somewhere out there. I just saw it.
Just grab it, please, and put it up. Greetings from the Netherlands. Cool. The chat will be a little weird looking. Most of you probably will listen to on your phone anyway. It might look a little bizarre. Did you bring the 1877? Nobody did?
We didn't have any.
We had 3 boxes of it.
Not in the fridge.
Wow. Okay. So, do one of y'all want to go run and grab the Topo Chicos or something? I need something. Tony is in the studio tonight. So is Anthony. So we're gonna do this, and then afterwards, we're gonna do the stories recordings. Now I know you people, because you are YouTube people. The YouTube people are a little bit different. And see, there's this one gnat. Did we leave anything in here that they could survive on? Yeah, there's drinks in it, but it's all water. Mm-hmm. That's probably what it is. That's why. Are you going, Tony? Okay, thank you. Two Topo Chicos, man. Did you want to give him a card? You got it?
Yeah, he's got it.
Okay. So, anyways, we got some things we got to do. Okay, so one of the stories that I wanted to talk about tonight, if we have time, we'll throw a little extra stuff in there, but this one's going to take up quite a bit of the show. But I mean, okay, so this guy's name was Wayne. Mm-hmm. Bruce Wayne. No, I'm just kidding. His name was Wayne. And Wayne was overseas in Pretoria. He went to Pretoria, South Africa. And so he hit me up. He said, I heard you talk about South Africa. He was an American. He was from America. And this happened back in the early 90s. In fact, it was 1992, I believe it was, when this happened. Or he got there in 91, but this happened in 92. He was a contractor. And he was working for the government at that time. And then he was going to be going to what is now Zimbabwe. And what he was doing there, he did not disclose, and I didn't ask. And so he had a strange story to tell. And he says, I've heard you talk about these kind of things on the show. He's like, I'm not a long-time listener. And he gave me this story a couple months back, and I thought, you know what? I'm saving that one for Halloween. And this story is intriguing to me because it is something that we talked about. And he said that too. He says, it's something that you guys have talked about on the show. And he was like, I'm very interested in this, but he didn't find us by accident. One of our listeners, that's his uncle. And he told him, hey, it's his aunt's husband, ex-husband. Him and his wife were separated, and she actually passed away while he was overseas in another place in Indonesia. And so he had a special set of skills that he would go and use to work for different governments around the world. And he had a very colorful life. I had a couple other weird things happen, but this one here was very intriguing. And so when he got there, he needed a place to stay because his situation that he was in it got delayed. So the government said, hey, go and stay, we'll put you up outside of the city until we need you. And so they gave him this the option of 2 different places, and he had not been to either one of them, and they didn't give him a lot of time. They're not like, hey, Wayne, which one do you think is more better? And he's like, well, I'd like to try both of them. No, you're not. What they basically did was, you're going to pick one of these based on this picture. So this is literally what he said. So they give him a picture, and they're like, which one looks more intriguing to you? And he's like, literally at that time, he's like, I wasn't thinking about ghosts or aliens or demons or anything like that. And he's like, I don't know what, how do I decide that? And they were like, well, you got to figure one out because that's where you're going to be staying. And so he said, okay, how do I know what the backyard looks like, or does it have a back? It was just a picture of a cottage, and the other one was like an apartment. It looked like a not an apartment, but like a duplex type looking townhome thing. And he said that it looked real barren or whatever. So he chose the other one. So when they drove him out there, it was several kilometers, which is a few miles by American standards, out in the middle of nowhere, outside of Pretoria. And they said, here you go, this is where you're going to be staying. And then they told him, they said, be careful, don't leave trash out. And he says, well, why is that? And they're like, well, the hyenas are real bad out here. They kill people and eat them all the time. The guy that drove him out there, he goes, okay. And then he drives him back off. And he says that if you go a little bit further out into the bush, if you go for a hike, he goes, there's a little trail out there. There's lions. And he goes, they'll kill you too.
Yeah, so just stay inside.
Yeah, and the jackals will spread the trash everywhere and blah, blah, blah. And there's a pack of wild dogs. It's basically Africa. Mm-hmm. There, where the prey animals are probably meaner than the predators because they have to be on guard all the time because they don't want to get eaten. So Wayne was like, he's a funny guy. He was a really funny dude. He said, long story short, it sucked. So he gets to meet his neighbors. So there were 3 cottages. There was one in the middle that was straight on facing the south. And then he had his, which was kind of at an angle like this. And then the other one was kind of at an angle, so it kind of went like this. And then, so they weren't connected. But they were really close to each other. And there were 3 of them. And then there were 2 others that looked like they had been condemned or something from the back. And that was interesting. We'll get to that in a minute. But one of the things that he noticed about the place was that when he first got there, when they opened the door, there was like this wave of heat. They just said, now you think of Africa as being hot, but South Africa is actually so far south that it's closer to Antarctica. Of course, it's closer to the pole. Mm-hmm. And the seasons are the opposite. In December, when we're, Christmas time, it's cold. That's not. That is the end of fall for us, beginning of winter. Mm-hmm. That's the end of spring, beginning of summer. And so it's the opposite. So this was in the middle of July, and July there is cool. It's pretty moderate. It's pretty nice. And so he said, dude, it was cool outside. And it was like 72 degrees, and you go in swelteringly hot in there. He was shocked at how hot he was, and he was like, what happened here? Why is it so damn hot? And this little couple, this black couple comes up to meet him, mm-hmm. and they were Zulu. Now, a lot of people don't know the history of South Africa, and of course I do. The Zulu were the original inhabitants of that country. And most of them are not involved with this whole ANC, the African National Congress, let's kill everybody, blah, blah, blah. The racial sort of backlash that has kind of gone overboard keeps going on both sides. They weren't really involved in that. And in fact, they fought a war against the British, just like the Boers did. And the Boers and them were pretty much, they had good ties. There's a lot of propaganda one way or the other. And if you don't know the history of South Africa, it's very intriguing. Okay. The Boers were the first Europeans that came, and they're called Afrikaners. They speak in a language that's Afrikaner. And they made peace with the Zulu, like right off. And the Zulu were like, sure, you can stay. We don't have a problem with you. And they didn't really have issues. It's when the English came, and I'm not picking on the British, but when they came, things got interesting. The Zulu fought a bloody war with them. The Boers fought a bloody war with them. And the English won both times. And they upset the apple cart. And not putting it all on them, but they are the ones that actually installed and created apartheid. And then they began to, because the Zulu were like, we're not working for you. You've kicked us off of our land. And now you're telling us, hey, man, we got jobs for you to do. And they're like, you just destroyed our sovereignty. Why would we work for you? So This is what happened. There's an area there. It's a bloody, bloody ground where there was a battle that was fought right outside of Pretoria. And it was a skirmish that's not real well known, but a lot of people died. A lot of Zulus died, and then the Boers died. And the English set up a garrison close to there. Well, there in Pretoria, but right outside of Pretoria, to the north. And they did a lot of really nasty things. They would take Boers, who were Dutch-descended Europeans, and they would torture them. And during one of these torture sessions, the Zulu actually attacked. They had guerrilla warfare going on at that time, and they caught some of the Zulu there, and they killed them and hung them, and they lit them on fire. And there's a tree that's still right there that's burned up, and it was left there on purpose by the English to say, look, if you want to keep it up, this is what happens. Because we're not going to put up with your Afrikaner Dutch nonsense or your Zulu nonsense, whatever. And then they brought in thousands upon thousands upon thousands of immigrants from all over Africa, in particular Nigerians. They brought in a lot of Nigerians. They brought in Sudanese, people that were from East Africa, West Africa, people from the Ivory Coast, people that were, these were not Zulu. And they brought them and they confiscated Zulu land, and they basically did to them what a lot of Native Americans had happened to them here. And they gave their land to these immigrants, and the Zulu were extremely pissed off because that's not their people. Now, yes, they're both black, but they're not the same people. And gradually, those people began to chafe under how they were treated under apartheid, and they took over. Once they took over, now they started talking about, oh, kill the Boers, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's a very simple reason. The Boers had a lot of the land. They had a lot of the land. And the English, what they couldn't confiscate because the Boers would fight back. And eventually so did the Zulu. They began to uprise again. But they were too many immigrants at this point. And so the immigrant Africans took over. So overwhelmingly, I don't care what they tell you, don't come at me and tell you, you looked it up, you read whatever. I know. You know why? Because I've been there. I'm not saying that trumps everything you've been taught, but what you've been taught is bullshit, okay? I know, because I know Zulu. I don't speak a lot of it, but I do speak a little, and I ran into a guy at a bar, at my friend's bar, and you can ask my wife. I talked a little bit of Zulu to the dude, and he was like my friend the whole night. He was buying me drinks and hanging out, and we talked politics, and he was, he infuriated with the English. They do not like the British, and they have a good reason. So do the Boers. But they've created this this sort of where it looks like the Zulu got their land taken by the Boers, which is not correct. They were at peace. They lived in harmony for the most part. And then these what is essentially the fourth and fifth generation of immigrants came. And they decided that they were going to take over. And they did. And they just kind of put the Zulu on basically welfare and said, you take what we give you and we're in charge now. And so after apartheid fell, which was wrong, apartheid was evil. Definitely evil. It's a racist system, systemic racism. But it wasn't the Boers that did it, it was the English. But now the Boers are being killed and people they're thinking, oh, it's retribution for the way they treated everybody. They had nothing to do with it. That's like taking over, and you go, well, it's the Amish that did this. Let's go after it. They were just there. They were kind of living on the land and didn't really have anything to do with that crap. Most of them lived out in the country. They didn't live in the cities. So anyway, that's in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot of intricacies, and you can't tell the whole story in just a few minutes on a paranormal show. But that is, if you in a nutshell, the truth, the real truth. And so you have the Zulu who were got the shaft along with the Boers, and they lived in peace and harmony until the English came. Now, after the English had set up shop there, they brought in a lot of Indian immigrants too. So, now you have Chinese there too, and Vietnamese. You have Chinese, you have Vietnamese. You go there now, that's what you'll see. You'll see Chinese, Vietnamese, some Cambodian. You'll see people from like I said, India. And then you'll see quite a bit of Africans that are from other countries and descended from people from other countries. And the Zulu were kind of just marginalized. And really and truly, it was theirs. It was their land. It belonged to them. And they have been sort of just pushed to the outskirts and driven off. And they're kind of a forgotten people. And everybody wants to believe that, like, the African National Congress represents the Zulu. They do not. They do not. That is not, they are not in control of that. They do not have the power in that place. Now they are being represented more now because they've been scrutinized. And I don't care what anybody says, Mandela was not the good man that everybody tries to paint him out to be. A lot of times whenever the media paints somebody to be the good guy, they really aren't. And so, but the people running the show there were not good people either. But I can assure you, the Boers and the Zulu were not making the laws. Okay, so anyway, the guy next to him, that was renting the cottage next to him, his father was an Australian and his mother was Boer, and so the guy was a very interesting guy. His father had retired after World War II when he was from fighting the Japanese, and he wanted to go somewhere else, and so he ended up traveling there, and he worked on a ranch, and he met, a Boer young woman, and they got together, and the rest is history. But then she passed away, and he's now elderly. His name was William, and he lived next door to him. And on the end was a Zulu couple. And he said they were the sweetest people. They were really nice. They got along very well, and they both families, that guy and his son would come and bring him supplies every once in a while and come from town. And so they had a garden. And then the Zulu couple had a garden too. And so when he was outside the back, he was mowing the grass. And he said all he had was this is 1990s, right? But he said it was so primitive. All they had was this little push mower with the little thing that spins. It's not there's no motor or anything like that. So he's in the backyard mowing the grass. And he says, William's just kind of sitting there watching him. And he's like, you want a beer? And he's like, sure, I'll take a beer. And then he says the Zulu couple comes out. And they look at him, and they wave, and they offered him some yams and some other stuff that they had planted, whatever. And so they had gardens. And they said, do you have any fresh fruit and vegetables, Now, this area where he was at, there was a small little station where they had groceries and stuff, which was in walking distance, but you didn't want to walk out there because, like they said, there's hyenas and other types of animals out there that are just roaming around free. And that's true. So the odds are you're probably not going to get attacked by one, but then you might. So why would you even take a chance, And he said, so he rented a vehicle while he was there, and he was only supposed to be there for a month. But then a month turned into 2 months, and then 2 months turned into 3 months. Well, almost immediately, he noticed that there was something wrong with this place. Not the neighbors. The neighbors were great. He had no problems with William, or I think it was Mugga. Mugga was the woman, and the guy, I forgot his name, but anyway, Mugga was very cool, Mugwa, and she was very nice to him and told him, anytime you need anything, just come to me. You need a cup of sugar, whatever, blah, blah, blah. She was very motherly. They had a son and a daughter-in-law that would come out there and check on them, and they'd sit out in the front and they'd talk, and they would all drink beer together. He said that he was the youngest one. He was 38 years old at the time, or 37 at that time. The neighbor next door was in his 50s, and then the other couple they were in their 50s, and they were about the same age. They were early seniors. And so he goes, I was very respectful. I was in good health and good shape, so I decided that I would help them any way I could. There was a plumbing issue that had happened. The landlords didn't do a good job of taking care of things, so he went and he helped them, this and that. And in exchange, they would give him vegetables and meat and stuff like that. And, of course, he was given an allowance by the government until they could get him deployed to where he needed to be. And basically what he did was like military engineering, let's put it that way. And so that was his job. He was a military engineer, and he could, like, you know. So he said, I was waiting for them to send me to where I needed to be to get my assignment, and it just kept stalling and stalling, and they were giving me my money, you know, little bit by little bit. And he said the second night he was there, it started. The second night he was there. He said, I hear a scratching at my window. He goes, and there's this blue light coming in. And I'm like, what is that? And I wake up. He goes, and I put my arm up, like, you know, why is there this obnoxious blue light coming through my window? This is crazy. And he said, dude, I look out and I see the shadow move by the window, and it looked bizarre. I couldn't make it out. And he said, all I saw was like what looked like maybe a head or something. But he said that this thing kind of looked like, hold on one second, folks. Okay, so he said that he thought he saw, you know how when somebody well, the way he described it to me, he didn't tell me this is what it was, but he said when somebody wears like a beanie and it kind of hangs off the back of their head, you know? Mm-hmm. But he thought this person was wearing a really big hat, you know? He didn't know what it was. He had no clue. And so when he was sitting there, he was looking and he was like, what in the hell is that? And he goes, and I had, you know, weapons. I had a flashlight, you know, very powerful, you know, flashlight. So I go to the window and I take the flashlight, I open it and I look out, and I didn't, you know. And now he was warned, don't open the windows if you hear any kind of scratching. Now this was told to him by Magua, and he was wondering why Magua would say that. Very odd, you know. And he didn't question her. She was just kind of rambling, talking, and he thought, well, you know, there's got to be a reason. So the Australian guy, William, he asked him, like, the next day, he says, you know, the first night I was here, Magua and her husband told me not to, if I hear scratching at the window, whatever you do, don't open the window. And he goes, well, did you open it? And he says, yes. As soon as I heard it, I sat up and I waited a little bit, and it didn't happen again. So I was like.
The one thing you're specifically instructed not to do.
Yeah. And let's not listen to the people who've been living on this land for 1,000 years. Let's just do what we want to do. I've been here for a month.
You had one job.
So he goes to the window. He opens it. There's nothing there. And he's like, okay, thank goodness there's nothing there. So then he goes and he lays back on the bed and he's like, wow, weird. Okay, maybe I was dreaming. I don't know. So the next day he talks to William and he says, hey, William. And he said, I took to calling him Bill. He didn't really like that. The guy's like, well, my name is William. I don't like Bill. And he says, well, in America, he goes, well, you're not in America. And he's like, well, in America, we call you Bill. So we call you Bill. And eventually, he got used to it and said, okay, I'm going to let him call me this. So what this guy did, he talks to this man, and this man tells him, well, if Magua said don't open it, then Magua probably has a reason. You know, these people have been here for 1,000 years. They know better than anybody else out here. And he says, and in fact, they're the only ones that will live out here. It's the Zulu and the Boers. Nobody else will go out there. Nobody lives out there. And he says, you know, they're the only ones that will come out here. And he says, my mother was a Boer, and my dad was from, you know, Queensland, Australia. And he said Bill was one of the toughest people. He was always outside at the age of 55, out there punching his bag, kicking and hitting, and he would hear him, you know. And then he would look out there and he would see, you know, the Zulu couple, they'd be out there making stuff on the grill and you know, whatever. And it was a little peaceful spot, and there was nothing around, nothing. And he said he got to where he kind of enjoyed their company, liked being out there. We all sat outside. The weather was nice and cool at that time. And he said I would go inside, and then, you know, I would watch a little TV on the telly, you know. And then he's like, I would drift off to sleep. He goes, well, they had this one chair I had. There was a recliner that was a furnished apartment, you know. And he said, I fell asleep, and I hear this breathing noise, but it sounded like a clackling noise, you know. And then he said, I woke up, and I thought it was the television. And I look at the television, and I realize that it is the television, but what's on the television is not what this noise is. He goes, I don't know what this noise is. And he's like, there was a lot of reruns. They were playing like American reruns of old shows and stuff like that. And he's like, and it had nothing to do with what this weird noise was. It sounded like the clacking of teeth. And he said that it was very bizarre. And he said, at this point, this was the second weird thing he saw. He said there was only one bedroom. It wasn't a big place, like maybe 500 square foot. And he saw something go like this across the hall, like from his bedroom into the bathroom. And he was like, when he just started to describe to me the way this thing looked, I started thinking about what happened to us when we were living in the house in South Austin, the thing that would run and jump into the mirror. And so I kind of waited. I didn't say anything. And I was like, I said, let me ask you a question. And I told him, I said, did you ever see it in the mirror? And he was like, yeah, I did. And he said, about a week in, he's like, funny you would ask that. He goes, yeah, I was shaving and I was getting ready to go to town. He's like, and I see something standing behind me in the mirror that had it just looked like a weird little face with this black oval thing around the face. And I was like, what is that? And I look and he goes, and it's gone. He's like, at this point, he goes, I couldn't ascertain that if I was losing my mind, maybe it was something in my diet. I became suspicious of the food they were giving me. I didn't even know what it was. I went to the market and I was very choosy about what I would buy. And I had some fish and I thought maybe this fish is contaminated. I don't know. He goes, I was a very grounded and down to earth individual. I was not a person that was prone to, flights of fancy. I'm not that guy, And so, and this guy, he's a lot older than me now. He's older, and the people that were living there now, I'm sure they're long deceased. But he said he went a little nuts. He goes, I kept seeing something in the corner of my eye. I'd be watching TV and I keep seeing something. He says, so I didn't want to be too, pushy. So I questioned William and I said, hey, is it possible that Magua, he called her Mugga. That was her nickname, just because it was a long, drawn-out name, like Wash or something. So he just called her Mugwa. But he said, is it possible that Mugwa might have been, maybe she's, doing something, I don't know what. He's like, but she's been asking me if there's something that's going on in my apartment, and I've been denying it. But she knows there is. Mm-hmm. Is there something maybe that she's doing? And the dude's like, what do you mean? Like witchcraft? He goes, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. He's like, you think maybe she was going to the window, maybe it was her doing it? And he was like, look, man, he goes, tell me what it is that you're seeing and I'll tell you what I know. So at the risk of sounding completely crazy and not wanting this to get back to his handlers in the government that might say, you know what, we don't need an engineer who's going to be seeing weird stuff. You know what I mean? Because in the military, and there's another story that you're going to eventually hear real soon, that is what happens. When you start talking about stuff and you're in the military, they're like, oh, okay, so you're crazy, and we're going to have to make sure that you be quiet. So what ended up happening with him, he tells William exactly what was going on, and William kind of comes clean and he says, okay, I'm going to tell you something, mate. He's like, there's some weird stuff out here. He's like, and I'm going to tell you this. He goes, have you seen any weird light? And he said, yeah, I did. The first night I saw a blue light. He said, yeah. It's kind of their calling card. And he says, who's they? What are you talking about? What is this? And he says, well, you've been out here long enough. You tell me, what have you been seeing? So he started telling him, and William's nodding his head, and Mugwa comes out, and she was listening, and she was standing there. She was sweeping the front porch, and she was like, she gets off the stoop, and she comes out, and she tells him, she says, you're seeing them too. And he says, them? I've only seen one thing. I don't know if it's, the same. She's like, oh, it's a they. She's like, but typically there is one that will be trouble. She goes, most of them will stay to themselves and leave you alone. She's like, but there's one that's been out here, and it has been a nuisance. And he noticed this too, that they're living out in the middle of nowhere, and that the Zulu couple actually had a little fence, like for a dog or something. William had a little inside dog. But he said, I noticed that most of these people that live out in the country out there, they have dogs. Very popular Rhodesian Ridgebacks, things like that. They have certain types of dogs. People keep them around because they're ferocious animals that will keep you safe. And their barking a lot of times will keep predators away and undesirable animals that you don't want around, because it is Africa, and they do run around out there. And so he said, I noticed you guys don't have dogs. Well, William did. He had a little Jack Russell Terrier. He says, but I don't see, thank you, Amy Krill. But so she said that we don't have these dogs. You don't have any dogs out here. And they said, no, we did. But they took them. And he's like, okay. He's like, at this point, I'm going like, are these people mental? Like, what is this? It's getting weirder. And they're like, they don't like the dogs. They will take your pets. So this guy, William, and I forgot the dog's name, whatever. Like, he had some little goofy name like Spunky. I know it's not it. It's something else. But anyway, he said that his little dog, he's like, my dog, I don't let him go outside without me. And he's like, Mugwa's dog was taken. And they were babysitting their son's dog when he had gotten deployed. And the dog ended up disappearing too. And he goes, well, it's hyenas, right? There's hyenas. I've heard them in the distance. And it's kind of creepy. You know how we out here, we hear coyotes at night, big, large packs, especially where we're living. And you'll hear them out there and you're thinking, damn, there's he says, you'll hear the hyenas out there killing something. And you'll hear this animal being unalived. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. You're hearing this, and the hyenas are so bad, there's a bunch of them. And he said, you're just thinking, man, don't come here, don't come over here. And he said that they would bring their dogs in at night and have them out there in the daytime. He says, but when they were babysitting their son's dog, he was there one minute and he was gone the next. There was no hyena involved, no jackals, no lions.
They didn't hear anything?
Nothing. It was like he was there. He ran around the building. They called him. He didn't come back. And then, of course, they started comparing notes. And he just kind of listened, and then he went to bed, and he had this head full of weird stuff that they had told him, but they didn't tell him everything. And then he wakes up and he's like, dude, I wake up and I thought I was awake. I thought I was awake because I was levitating off of my bed. And I was like, whoa, what the heck? What's going on here? Yeah, levitating off my bed. He goes, and then I woke up and I was on the bed, but I felt like I'd fallen and woken up. He's like, so what do you think that is? And I told him, I said, well, it sounds like an out-of-body experience. Mm-hmm. He goes, yeah, probably. He's like, but I was physically levitating. I looked down, there was no body below me. And then he said that there was another incident where he woke up outside. And he said there was this big tree, about 30 yards in the back. And he wakes up and he's underneath it. And he's got this big spider on him and he knocks it off. And he's like, what the hell? And he stands up and he goes, I'm completely nude. He's like, and I'm freaked out. And there's this weird mark on my leg. Well, as the days went by, the mark got more pronounced. And so he goes inside, at that morning, and he gets some coffee, and he goes back out to the step. The guy that lived next door liked to drink tea, so he was out there with him, and they were drinking coffee and tea, whatever. And he says, dude, I had the weirdest dream, and then I woke up outside and by the tree. And he's like, that wasn't a dream. And he's like, I'm really starting to get aggravated with these people because they're telling me this weird stuff that I'm not accepting. I am just not believing it. He's like, I'm going to tell you, Wolf. He said, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe in any of this stuff. And he says, if you woke up with that mark on your leg, he's like, they've stuck something in your leg. And he goes, what what are we dealing with? He goes, you're talking about they. He's like, I got aggravated with these people. I'm like, what is this crap? And they just kind of said, you know what? We'll talk to you when you're doing better. And they went inside their little cottages, and he went and he made a phone call, and he says, hey, man, you know, we need to meet. So he had a handler from the military government. He shows up, and he meets this guy at this restaurant. And he tells him, he says, man, the people out there are weird. There's something going on. They're claiming that there's these beings out there, whatever. The guy that was his liaison was a British intelligence officer, and the guy was from Wales. And he says, let me tell you something. He says, you don't understand. He's like, where I'm from. He's like, we call those things the Fae. Fairies. He's like, but I've been in Saudi Arabia. I've been all over the Levant. I call it the Levant, and he says, I've been all over the Middle East. I've been stationed in some pretty crazy places. I spent time in Scotland. He's like, I've been to Northern Ireland. He goes, I've been all over. I've been to Germany. He's like, every country on earth has these places. And they have these beings. They're just called by different names. And he goes, do you believe in it? He goes, I do. He's like, my aunt. He's like, Tilda. She built on a fairy mound. And the fun never stopped. It was nonstop nightmare until they left where they were living in the middle of the night with the clothes on their back, and they never went home. He's like, where was this at? He goes, it was in northern Wales. He's like, so I believe. He's like, and one of my flatmates when I was younger and we were living in London, we went out into the English countryside with the girls that we were dating. And one of them kicked one of these so-called fairy mounds. And within 2 days, she was in a bad car wreck near Liverpool. And it took her leg.
Did she know what it was, or did he not say?
He didn't say, but it doesn't matter either way.
Yeah.
They get offended when you look at them sideways.
Yeah.
And he says, so you're telling me, this is what he goes, Wolf, at this point, I was so aggravated with this guy. I said, look, Major Dum-Dum. He's like, he's like, I don't give a crap. I want to be on the next plane out, and I want to go back home to where I came from. He's like, I was a Southern boy, I was from Georgia, and I said, send me home. I want to go back home. I'm calling this off. And like, you signed a contract. You're going to wait until your time is done, unless you have X amount of dollars to give us, and then he said, okay, so I'm stuck here in this military contract for a private company, right? There's a lot of that there. And he says, so you are telling me that I can't leave. He says, that's correct. He said, I suggest you make peace with whatever the hell it is you're dealing with out there. He goes, and by the way, I don't like your attitude. Don't ever come at me again, waving your finger in my face, telling me this, telling me that. So he kind of dressed him down and told him, you'll deal with your contract or you'll get your contract canceled. And you'll be broke and we'll sue the crap out of you and you'll never work in this industry again. You understand? And he says, yeah, loud and clear. He says, some people give them gifts. Maybe that'll help. And he goes, I still wasn't sure what I was dealing with. I drove back out there and I'm thinking, I'm on the way home and I'm like, what is it that I'm dealing with? What in the hell is this? He goes, I was aggravated. He goes, I stopped the truck. I got out and I just screamed out into the wilderness.
Not what you signed up for.
He goes, and then the lion answered me and I got back in and took off real quick. No, that didn't happen. I'm joking. But he says, I got out and I was just like, what is this? What am I dealing with? I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night. He goes, this thing in my leg looked like it was getting infected. He goes, I gave it a couple of days and I thought, well, it's really bad. So I started to drive into town. He goes, and as I'm driving into town, I kept scratching it. He's like, and then I get to the hospital and I go inside. He's like, and I sit down and I'm filling the stuff out to the clipboard, telling him I got insurance, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I look down and there's nothing there. There's just a little hole, little spot. He's like, honest, swear, I could not tell you what it was. And I'm like, what in the hell? He goes,
so it basically healed up by the time he went to the doctor?
It wasn't there. But he also said he didn't look at it. when he got back to the hospital, it was gone.
Well, these
And
things
he was
will
like-
move inside of people, supposedly, too.
Oh, yeah. So then he drives back out to the country, to his possessed cottage, as he called it.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I go in there and everything is all over the place, scattered everywhere. Somebody had ransacked my place. He goes, and I didn't know how it could have happened without our neighbors knowing it. Because I went to them and knocked frantically, and they were like, no, nobody's been out here. We haven't seen anybody. So they didn't know what had happened to his place. He didn't know what had happened to his place. He had no clue. So he says that night, he goes, I sat there with a 45, waiting for something to happen because I felt like something was going to happen. He goes, and I'm looking out the back window. He goes, and sure enough, I see something moving around on all fours, and I see a tail kind of going up over the reeds. And he's like, oh. He goes, so I took my rifle. He's like, and I positioned it, and I had the screen lifted up. Probably not the smartest thing. He's like, and I got you. I see you. And he goes, and sure enough, this thing comes up out of this tall grass. He goes, and I realize it's on 4 legs. But there's no animal in Africa and probably on the known earth that looked like this thing. He's like, and this is the part, folks, you're going to have to follow me. What he told me, he's like, at this point, I was not a listener or watcher or reader of any sort of fiction. I wasn't into paranormal spooky tales. He's like, I was not into, the occult. He goes, when I was a kid, he's like, my cousins, my dad's first cousin, they had a house that definitely was haunted. We had some stuff happen as a kid. It didn't really affect me, and I don't really tell this because it's not pertinent to the story because I don't think it was around. It didn't mess with him. It was something that was based in the house. And he said there was something there in the house in Georgia, in Savannah. It had nothing to do with me. He goes, I lived out in the country, and and there was a house out there, and they were down the road, down the county road from us. And he said, dude, what this thing was, what I was looking at, I had never seen anything like this in my life. He goes, well, then when I was racking my brain, I was like, I've seen this before, but where? And he said this thing was like clattering its teeth, like, and he was making this noise. And he goes, and I'm looking at this thing, by the light of the moon, it was, right after dark. He goes, and then it turned and it whipped its tail around and it ran into the wilderness. He's like, and my hands were just clenching this rifle, and I put it down, and I wasn't breathing. He goes, and I realized I had been holding my breath for so long, I felt like I was going to go unconscious. And I was like, because I took a breath, and I was like, oh my gosh, what the hell did I just see? What in the hell did I just see? So he says the next day, he goes and he knocks 7 o'clock. He goes, William wakes up, the Zulu couple wakes up. They're always up early, And he says, last night I saw it. I saw one of these things. He goes, it looked like a thing on all fours with this weird head. And the dude was like, yeah. He saw it. He's like, did it come at you? He goes, no, I had my gun out. I pointed it at it. He goes, oh my gosh. He said, you pointed a gun at it. He said, yeah. And he goes, oh no. Okay, that's not a good thing. He goes, that is not a good thing. He's like, don't threaten them. Don't threaten them. He goes, it's not going to help you because if you shoot it, it's just going to come back with more. Or it's just going to get really mad. It's going to attack you. He goes, weapons, guns, they don't work on these things. And he goes, well, what does? And he goes, well, he's like, I'm not Catholic, but I have holy water. And he tells him, that he's got all these different things he does. He goes, I pray, I put salt around that. And he's like, what? He goes, I'm not going to lie. I was like, what is wrong with you people? Salt and magic juju beads and crosses and medals from saints and all this stuff. It's not going to work. This is a monster. We are dealing with a freaking monster. These are monsters out there. They are flesh and blood. They're monsters. They're aliens or something. I don't know what they are. And while he's telling these people, Makawa's husband comes out, and I can't remember his name. It started with like an F. But anyway, for the show, we'll call him Frank. I don't know what his name was. I can't remember. But Frank tells him, he says, look, young man, he goes, you need to calm down and sit down. And so he sits down, Indian style, on all fours. And he sits down on his two legs crossed over, whatever. He says, look, I saw this creature on all fours last night. It was a beast of some kind. And he says, what I'm going to tell you, he's like, long ago, and he's like, because I wanted to pass out from like long ago
in the future.
And he goes, I'm not going to lie. I'm not into stories. I did not care. I never watched Star Wars. He goes, and in fact, I didn't even know what the hell it was called. It was called Wars of the Stars or some crap. He's like, I wasn't into Battle of Galactica, whatever. This is what he called it. This is how he named these things. He goes, and I damn sure didn't watch any of these alien movies, gargoyles, nothing, no cartoons. I lived in this reality. He goes, and I was very grounded in this reality. I was not interested in what these people's beliefs were. No offense to the Zulu, I didn't care about their tribal beliefs. I did not care about their elder beliefs. I did not care what this guy, the Australian Boer guy, whatever, I didn't care what his beliefs were. I did not give a damn. He's like, I wanted out of that place. And so he goes, I said, okay, no offense. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to make a couple phone calls. And he made a couple phone calls, and his handler says, we have nowhere to put you right now. Okay, we're going to deploy you in about 3 weeks. He goes, 3 more weeks of this? And he says, yes, and deal with it. And they hung up. And he goes, so I came back outside. He goes, and I was sitting there. He goes, and I could tell I was ashen-faced, looking in the mirror, putting water on my face. And Frank, Muckwa's husband, came out, and he told me, he says, look, are you ready to hear what I have to tell you? And he sat down, and he says, yeah. Go ahead. Tell me. He says, long time ago, before my people came to this area, he's like, this was a millennia ago. He's like, there were beings that lived upon this earth, and there was a flood, right? And most of these beings were wiped out, but the ones that weren't wiped out, he's like, there was a giant hill in the distance. He goes, that hill, they lived there. They went under the hill. And they survived this major flood. He's like, these beings live within the earth, but they have the ability to come up topside. He goes, and they can go through your wall, but they need energy, right? And the way he described it, he was like, they were almost like a vampiric race of beings. And he says, well, where are they from? He goes, they are from here. They're from here. But ages and ages and ages ago, they came from another world, and they just settled in this area. And there was another race of beings that lived here before them, and they fought a war, basically. And this race of beings won, but not before they both interbred to create whatever that is. And he said, what do you call it? And he said they had a weird name for it called Mulafifi, which is some sort of weird name that they gave these creatures, if I'm saying it correctly, Mulafifi, Mulafofi, whatever. And basically it means like those that eat your brain. It's like that's what they do. They eat your head. Like they mess you up until they make you crazy, and it's metaphorical. You know what I mean? But he was like, what does this mean? And he says they eat your head, like they eat your brain. Your brain, he goes, you lose your mind.
Oh, that pineal gland.
And then when you go out there, when they eventually trick you into going somewhere because they create illusions, he's like, then they kill you physically. And you're never seen again. He goes, they take people away. And he goes, then what in the hell are you people doing living out here in the middle of nowhere around Mafofis or whatever they're called? And they're like, because we have nowhere else to go. He's like, we're not rich. He's like, but as long as you are protected, you're fine. He goes, okay, how do I get protected? Because they're coming into my house. They're doing all these weird things. He goes, and so he goes, I was like, you know what? I don't want to know. I don't care. I'm just going to go and live inside of my little shabby cottage. And he goes, for a couple days, I didn't go out. I could hear my neighbors talking and whatever. He goes, and I didn't go outside. I didn't care about the mofo, whatever. That's how he talks.
The umfufu.
The umfufu, you know, not what he said, my words, but, and he said, you know, he goes, I was just laying there in bed looking up at the ceiling. He's like, and a couple days went by, and I don't think I moved. I didn't eat. I barely woke up. I would sleep, go back to sleep, and everything was fine. I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just sleep until it's time to go, and I'll wake up, and this will have all been a bad dream, and the government from South Africa will stop pissing down my leg, and I'll be fine. So he said that he went to sleep. He goes, and it must have been maybe the third or fourth day, I can't remember, that he hadn't eaten. And he said, I barely was drinking water. He goes, and while I was there, I was, hold on one second. He said, while I was there, I had this weird, trying to get this, hold on one second. I have to drink this whole thing once a day. And he said, while I was there, he's like, I had this overwhelming urge. I had never been this way before. I had never felt this way before. He goes, but I was so depressed that I thought about ending it. He goes, and I wasn't a Christian person. He goes, and like clockwork, I hear on my door. And I rolled my eyes and I thought, what do these crazy people want? And he goes, what was so crazy, though, was that what they were saying was the only sense to be made. And he goes, and it was like me being, you know, obstinate.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so I get up and I'm like, what? What do you want? You know, I open the door and there they are, my neighbors. Frank and, you know, Billy. And they told him, they said, hey, we're going to go out to the bush up here. We're going to show you something. And so he said, okay. So he got on his boots, he got his rifle and his gun, and he walked out with them, and they went out about 200 yards. He had never been that far out. And because he knew better. He goes, and as they walked up to this trail, they saw deer, antelope, they saw all kinds of gazelle, different things. And he said he goes up to this, there's like a ridge, and then there's this crater. Right there's a crater. And he's like, holy crap. There's just this perfectly round crater in the earth. And he's like, what is this? And they're like, this is an ancient, you know, crater.
Site.
And he says, this is where they originally came from, is this hole. And it goes up to that big hill, small mountain, big, you know, hill, whatever, glorified hill, whatever. He said, that right there is where they come from. And when he started talking to William, who was raised on stories from his Australian, you know, dad, he said, we have these in the middle of Australia too. There are people, beings that live within the earth. He goes, and this is one race of them. But he said, these beings, though, are different. He's like, they are very, very, very evil beings. He's like, the one you saw. What color was it? He goes, it was black. He said, yes, they're all black. He goes, and they typically come out in the cover of darkness. He said, and you raised your rifle at it, and what happened? He said, well, it turned around and went back into the woods. And he said, absolutely. He's like, because they know what that is. He's like, and they don't, if you say the blessings, and he gave them this whole blessing, he's like, and you put your crosses up, and you protect yourself, and you put salt around it. And then there was this other little wooden medallion thing that the Zulu couple had made. They said, we've been using this to keep them at bay for a long time. And he goes, what is this? He's like, it is really in their language. But it basically is telling them, you're not welcome here. He goes, and it tells them there is no supplication. So in other words, you're not going to supply them with anything. Mm-hmm. You're not giving them food. He goes, now some of our elders literally split up and moved in became different tribes over these things. because some of the elders wanted to give sacrifice to these things so they would leave us alone. He's like, and all that ended up happening was they took the sacrifices of our cattle, they took the sacrifices, and then they eventually wanted more.
Yep.
He's like, and then we were giving them children. He's like, and there was a revolt, and those leaders were killed. And then they were hung up, as a symbol. He goes, and that is the symbol. He said it kind of looked like a cross, but it had these two weird, things coming down at the bottom. So they basically, and in essence, kind of crucified these people and put them up and showed them this is what happens to those who try to make us submit. He's like, so these things attacked. He goes, this was several hundred years ago. But the oral tradition has been passed down, and they fought a war with these things. His particular group split off, and they refused to give anything to these beings. Now, these beings come in the form of a spirit, like a smoke, and they'll go into the cities, and they'll try to get this, possess people. They're demons, folks, but the way that they look, this is what got me. This is what struck me as so bizarre. Now, you remember how we've talked about on this show, and we do a lot of real deep thinking here. And I'm convinced this is the truth. Everything you watch on TV is soft disclosure in some form or another. Mm-hmm. When this guy began to describe to me, so they walked away from the crater, and they went back into their houses, and he sat there like, what in the hell is this? Before we get into the disclosure, I'll tell you. He said, I went to sleep in my recliner. He goes, I wake up to a hissing noise, and I look down, and I see one of these beings, or the being that was messing with us. I think it was one, really. He's like, and it was about 5 foot tall, but it was squatted down, and you could see the legs, and it was kind of hopping around, hunched over. This is how I've seen shadows look. But remember at Rio Lotto, there was something out in the playground that would hop around like that? Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't really get a good look at the head, but I remember how it moved, and me and Zane had witnessed it, and so did a couple other guards. Chichu saw it. This thing, he said, dude, it had this weird head. He goes, and it was hopping around. He goes, and when I kicked at it, I was like, I kicked at it. He said this thing jumped back, and it got down on all fours, and it crawled like a spider, and it went up the wall and then out the window. Physically, when it was a physical thing, he said it knocked the screen off the window. He goes, but it was like multi-legged. It looked like a spider with a weird head. Now, when he described this to me, there is that spider connection. The next day, he talks to Makwa and her husband, and he says, I saw the thing, and it did this weird crawling thing, and the man, he's sitting there making some steak, whatever, and he goes, it did the crawl. And he says, yeah. He goes, yeah. Like a spider. And he goes, yeah. He goes, yeah. They are like giant spiders. He said these beings that came from this other realm, the beings that they bred with, and they're still not sure what happened, like how this happened, but the beings that they interacted with or something were some sort of spider-like species within the earth. And these beings were some sort of upright type beings. And so whenever this thing, crossbred, this happened like thousands of years ago. Now, that could be one, that's their version of it, or it could be like Jerry and Ella Williams tell it, and these things will actually eat beings and then become like them, but they still have that spider-like base. Why else do people see them do this so many times? Somebody says here, in my culture, we call it a feeder and a crawler. Yeah, that's gross. Weird. So when he's telling me this, I'm like looking around, like, because I hate spiders. And I'm just like, ugh. And he's like, what's wrong? I said, I don't know, the spider thing. He goes, yeah, it's freaky. He goes, I was killing spiders in that house constantly. Of course, you're out in the middle of nowhere.
No.
But he goes, but I was constantly hearing this or seeing this. He goes, and then he goes, I would hear this clattering noise, like, you know, and I would go into the other room and there'd be nothing there. He goes, and then I'd come out and I'd be like, what was that? You know, I'm freaking out. He goes, I'm hearing it. I'm freaking out, you know. One of the things that really struck him was, and I thought this was weird too, was when he was in the sink and in the tub, there would be this black goo-like residue. And he said that when he touched it, one time he touched it, he was like, it got all over him. And he said it was, he couldn't know for sure unless he was imagining. He said, but it looked like it was seeping down over my hand, like it was trying to go. And then it felt like it was burning. So I started trying to get it off and I had to pull it off. He's like, and it was expanding and it was starting to like feel like it was going into my pores, and it turned his hand and his wrist red on the top side of it. And so he said it was bizarre, you know, strange, whatever. And he asked me if I'd heard of anything like that. I said, yeah, you're hitting a lot of the points that we've talked about on the show. And I gave him some things to follow, and I said, go check this out. The next time that this thing happened, which would have been two nights from that point right there, or he said it was 2 nights from that point right there. He said that this thing, whatever it was, he heard the window opening, crack, you know, whatever, you know, he looks and he sees something go boom. And he was like, oh crap. Okay, something is there by my bed. And he's like, and I'm reaching for the gun, and the gun just goes and like falls over. He's like, so my shotgun was like, you know, he goes, and I'm like, great. He's like, so I go to the other side of the bed and I look, he goes, and my gun is nowhere to be found. He's like, so I look under the nightstand and there is my pistol. He goes, I go to grab it. He goes, and get this, I see this black, like elongated fingered hand grab it and pull it. He goes, and then I backed up and I said, okay, all right. He goes, at this point, I just want to get up, turn the light on, and I want to get a good look at this thing. And he says, I know you're in here. I know you're messing with me. I know you want whatever what do you want? He says, I start screaming. He's like, and then you know how you get that burst of courage? Because I've lived in houses where there's weird stuff and you just say, to hell with it. He jumps up and he turns the light on, and there's this thing under the bed. He sees it go into the bed. He's like, and then he goes, I run out of the room to go grab my rifle. He goes, and then I look and I see this thing poke its head around the corner. He goes, and this is when I got the one and only full-on look at this thing. It comes out into the hallway. He goes, it's about 4 feet tall. He's like, and there's this tail swinging around behind it. He's like, and it's got this elongated head, and it's black. And it's got these weird teeth with this big grin on its face. And it began to clack those teeth together and take a step and clack the teeth, and then its head would move back, and then it would take another step. He goes, and it was trying to, I think, build up momentum to just lunge at me. He's like, I grab my rifle, I pick it up, and I point it, and then it takes off back into the room. He's like, I slowly made my way into the hallway, and looked in the room, and it was gone. The breeze was blowing. He's like, and I sat there, he goes, and I'm just like, what the hell was that? He's like, and then he goes, I couldn't help it. I went outside. He's like, and I was like, I'm going to kill this thing. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to blast this thing. When he gets around to in between the houses, he sees the tail moving around in the reeds. He shoots, and he hears like this shriek. He knew he'd hit it. So then he started walking into the woods towards it. He's like, and then it happened. He goes, this thing stood straight up. He goes, and that's when I realized this thing was like 7.5 feet tall. This was no spider, whatever. At this point, it was not something crawling around on all fours. It was as tall as a man, big and powerful like a man. He goes, and then it got back down on all fours and started to kind of do this weird little wiggle dance thing, is the way he described it. He goes, and it was turning into, the only way I could describe it was some sort of animal, and it started to kind of look like a distorted lion. And so he goes, I was like, what the hell? And so he ran back inside, and then he hears this lion roar, which he'd heard multiple times in Africa. And he's like, and I'm thinking, did that thing just turn into some sort of other animal? His neighbors called him and they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? And he was like, yeah, I'm okay. Wayne's like, I'm okay, but I'm shaken up. The next day, when he told him that he had shot this creature, he did call the police. They came out and they were like, well, what do you want us to do? They're like, you shot one of these beings. Well, I guess you're on your own. I mean, they're probably going to eat your balls. And I'm just kidding. But he was like, they were the most useless people. He goes, and I almost got arrested because I was in their face yelling, and I was like, you dumbasses. You got creatures running around out here, and and they're like uninterested with the sleepy eyes, like, yeah, okay. And they're like, yeah, I want some tacos. We don't
Falling
even have
asleep
those
while he's
here.
talking.
I'm just going to see if we can invent some tacos down here. I got to go. Thank you. And so they just left. And he's going like, what the hell what has happened here to me? He says, 3 or 4 days go by, nothing happens. And then I get the call and they're like, hey, it was Thursday. He goes, Monday, you'll be out of there. We got you ready to go. And he's like, oh, goody. Survive anything now after fighting with whatever. Well, he goes and he does what he's got to do. And there was a couple weird little things. He would see things in the corner of his eye in the barracks where he was at. He did his job with the Army engineers. His time goes by, 4 months, whatever. They finished early. They were set to go 6 months. He did 4 months. He flies back to the United States, goes back home to Georgia. He was living in Atlanta at the time. He says, I'll be real honest. He goes, I just kind of put it on the back burner and just forgot about it for a couple of years. He's like, sometime in the mid-90s, he goes, I'm telling this story at Thanksgiving to my daughter and my son-in-law and my son. He goes, who, by the way, his friend, credit him, Craig. Thank you, Craig, for telling him about us. And I'm sorry, Craig. I said, dang it, I said your name wrong. Kirk. Sorry, Kirk. I knew that. I'm sorry. I just screwed up. I called you something else. I did. This messed up, dude. Sorry about that. Kirk, thank you for telling him about us. Okay. So then, a few years later, this is in the mid-90s or late 90s. And his daughter was like, listen to the story. And she's like, Dad, that sounds like aliens, like from the Alien movie. And he was like, yeah, okay. Like he said, he was like, I don't watch any of this crap. I'm not into fantasy crap. When I was, my kids were little, I put on the
flicker box.
Sounds like my dad, because he goes, the story that never ended. He goes, I put on the story that never ends, whatever type of whatever they would do. Move this a little bit here. There we go. He's like, I put on the story that never ends. Whatever, I wouldn't watch this, the Transformers, whatever the crap, whatever it was, And he's got kids like my age, it's like, his guys, whatever. But, it was just, I don't, it's crazy. I mean, you're sitting there and you're going like, what did this man encounter out there? So he goes, I get the movie Aliens. He goes, not Alien, not the original, but it was called Aliens. He goes, and so he goes, I had a VHS. They already had DVDs. He goes, this is as good as it's going to get with technology for me when it comes to that kind of stuff. He's like, building bridges and things like that, great, but I'm not into this digital whatever. He goes, puts it in, whatever. And he's like, I'm sitting there and I'm watching this. He goes, and I couldn't get when the aliens first made their appearance, he goes, I couldn't watch 2 minutes of it. I turned it off and I was like, holy crap. He goes, and I had nightmares for like a week off and on. Mm-hmm. And so when I was listening to him talk, and I said, Wayne, are you telling me that you saw one of these things that they call a xenomorph? And he goes, I guess. He goes, I don't even know what is that? And I said, that's the creature, the alien-looking creature. He says, kinda. Now, it's important when he says kinda, he's got to go, when somebody says kinda, you're like, This now, guys, this is not the first time we've heard creatures being described like that. Quite the contrary. This doesn't happen all the time, and it's not to that degree. But we have heard of these beings being called like that, being called like alien-like, you know. He said it was kind of like that. The tail he saw was different. It wasn't like a vertebrate-looking tail, you know. There was no scorpion stinger on it, nothing dramatic like that, but it looked kind of prehensile. And he said it looked like the head was just kind of elongated. He goes, it kind of looked like a human head, but then the skull would have been elongated. And he says, I always thought it was kind of like those skulls that, this is his words, that they found in Peru, the Peruvian skulls, like the Incans. And he's like, and so it looked more like that, but it was black. It was definitely black. You know, and he says, dude, it's just one of those weird things. He goes, and I don't know. So, you know, when I hung up the phone with him, fast forwarding a little bit here, and we talked about all kinds of other stuff. He's a very interesting guy. One of the things that stuck with me, I started thinking about it, and we talked about this, Anthony, Geiger. Mm-hmm. Tell the people who he is.
So H.R. Geiger is the guy whose artwork inspired the alien xenomorphs, and supposedly, he says his inspiration for the design of those monsters came from his dreams. So, I mean, who knows what he was seeing, or if what he was seeing was even just a dream, or if he was actually seeing something, you know, beyond this world. I don't know.
I always thought that his stuff was kind of Lovecraftian.
Yeah, like that cosmic horror, unfathomable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something from beyond, you know. Mm-hmm. And so there were two other, we don't have a file that says aliens, but there were two other stories that were, thank you for that donation, we appreciate that. And it was weird to me when he talked about that. So I looked it up, and I did find some people who had seen things like this, in particular in their dreams. And so when you start looking into this, every once in a blue moon, you'll have someone that'll be telling you a story, and you're like, they kind of look like from Aliens. You're like, whoa. And I have yet to tell me anybody tell me that they saw the Predator. You know? Mm-hmm. But, I mean, they do see the cloaking, you know, that cloaking weird, you know, whatever. And I'm not going to say that, you know, something that looks like the Predator is behind it, because I don't know. But, you know. And then, you know, the guy, he's like, well, I know you think I'm crazy. And I said, why do you think that? He goes, because everybody does when I tell them this shit. You know, I mean, you know, the guy was 37 years old when I was like 15. Oh, he's like 22 years old than me, whatever. You know, I mean, what is that, 1953? He's born in 53, you know. I mean, you know, he was in Vietnam, and I asked him, I mean, you know, was this the scariest thing that ever happened? He's like, hell no, it was scary. It was the most bizarre. But consider this. You remember how I said that there were other people who had seen things like this? Okay, so he did me a real solid. Now, his guy, Bill, that was living out there, is long deceased, but he kept in touch with him up until his passing. And he had a daughter. And what he did was get me in touch with her. Her name was Gwen. And I talked to her. And she said, my dad's story is incredible. He was out in the brush hunting. Shouldn't have been. And he got attacked by one of these things. And that, folks, is for another time. But, yeah. One of the things that I got, though, I got a guy who gave me a story from Schneider, Texas. You ever heard of Schneider, Texas? Probably not. It's a small little nothing town. And he said that he saw UFOs activity that was around his town. And he said that one night he was 11 years old. And he's like, dude, I saw one of these things that looked like an alien. He goes, now I had just seen the movie a couple weeks before. So you have to think maybe it tempered his thinking. Now, Wayne told me a little bit about Billy's story. Now, this is how you got to do it, folks. If you want to do this, and I tell people all the time, if you want to be someone who is successful podcasting, YouTubing, researching, writing books, I'm not telling you what to do. But what separates the good from the bad and from the ugly is the ability to go from person to person, because I asked him specifically. He didn't volunteer it. I said, what did Billy know? What did Mugwa know? What did her husband know? Did their children or their grandchildren ever get any stories from them? And yes, they did. And this guy kept up with Billy, and he went back to Africa when he had his funeral, and he met some of his family from Australia, and they gave him weird stories too. One of them, the people that he met, is just after this, he was really intrigued by it. And he did his homework. He did his research. And he talked to a person who was an Aboriginal, a native. Not this guy was part. He was part. He goes, but my people have a species, a being like this from the before time. You know, they call it the dream time. He's like, and these beings, they do live within the earth, and they look kind of like ants with an elongated head. They also have the ability to shapeshift, but their true form is this ant-like shape, and they can actually take the form of different types of animals. They also do this weird, thing where they spit on people. Mm-hmm. And it's not like on the movies where it dissolves your face or whatever, but it can make you hallucinate. Where you walk off cliffs and things like that, or you wander off into the outback and you die.
It's like getting LSD on your skin.
They'll find you, maybe, and when they do, you're just dehydrated, shriveled up, like on SpongeBob, where he's like, I'm okay, and he's in Sandy's tea tree dome. I'm joking, folks. But they do this. Folks, I'm telling you this 1,110%. You may think I'm full of crap. You may think I'm lying. You may think this guy made the story up, or somehow I'm the best fiction maker, writer, whatever in the world. Bull crap. Let me tell you something, okay? I'm not saying 100% that I believe these people's stories, because if I did just took everything at face value, that would make me a fool, right? So I'm going to tell you these are people's encounters of what they tell us. But there's some truth to this, and I believe that this is soft disclosure. A lot of this is soft disclosure. Now, Ridley Scott, right? He was a big believer in the Anunnaki. He always has been. He believes in, and that's where that whole Prometheus thing came from. So after this show, we're going to go and we're going to record whatever. We're going to get some stuff out. We'll take some questions here in a minute. But, I'm going to do something that Jason Bland, I liked his format the other night when we were on there. Mm-hmm. You know how we were doing the call-in shows for a few weeks or whatever, and it was a big hit. But we didn't get a lot of people that would come in because we would just advertise call-in. Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do tonight, we're going to let people call in and talk, ask questions. So if you have any questions, just put the link on there. Okay. And you guys can jump in on the show. You can block yourself out. You don't have to. Can they do that? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah. I'm just gonna paste a link in the chat, and then y'all can click it, and it'll take you to a web page on your web browser where you'll set up like your microphone and your camera. But you can turn the camera off. It doesn't have to be on. Let's see. Start clamp cam. Just get to YouTube.
Come on, guys, give us the likes. Please, man, give us some money. Please. We only made $30 in donations. Come on now. Come on.
I got
I'm trying to save up some money for one rib.
I got these cheeseburgers, man.
I got these cheeseburgers, man.
Got these likes, man.
Like they're on there begging for money. Oh, yeah, right. Whatever. They're begging. We're begging you. Come on, please. So if anybody wants to call in, thank you, Two Shadows. Oh, thank goodness the begging worked. The begging worked. We got $20. Shoot, everybody's so freaking broke. And it's going to be that way at least for a little while longer. Hopefully it'll end.
All right.
Thank you for that donation, Chris. Thank you, Two Shadows. Thank you for everybody that donated. D. 350. So my brother and I are collaborating on a book, and it's all about this house that we lived in South Austin. So that will be, and I am trying to get stable so that I could even use my laptop, and then trying to work on the vampire book, which is slow going, only because we've been moving all over the place. Lawrence Morgan, indeed. He's the savior. It's all gonna work out. Who is my brother? That's Varulf Orden. I don't know, what does he go by on here? Diablo Varulf?
Yeah.
He's healing from a broken foot. Give him prayers. He needs help with his broken foot. And he hasn't been able to work. And he's looking at possibly having a limp for the rest of his life. And poor guy's had the worst luck in the world. And I am still trying to get over gout, and it's still in my left foot. Folks, this is odd. Ever since September 6th, when I first got this, every weekend that I do the show, and I promise you this is true. Tony, if I'm lying.
Nope. Pretty much. I pointed it out last week. Every time you have to go and do a show, it suddenly starts flaring up, even when you do like random ones.
Mm-hmm. And it's like every Monday. So that's weird. And then everybody in the house got this stomach bug. I didn't get it, thank God. But everybody in Taylor's got it.
Yeah, something going around.
Something going around bad. My cousins were all like, we're sick, we have this whatever. And I'm like, oh, great, I ate dinner at your house last night.
Even Beanie wasn't feeling good.
Even the dogs were sick. And then, she is. I don't know what else. The other dogs aren't. And so then everybody around me's got it. And then my cousins had it. And I had been over there. And I was like, that's great. And so everybody got sick. And then I went to go visit my Uncle Butch, who's now out of the hospital. He's out of, the ICU. He's able to move around. And as soon as he got out, he had it for a few days. And so he was getting over it, thank goodness. And so apparently it's going around. And I think all of us ended up getting it from my cousin Paige's kids. The little ones got it from daycare or whatever the heck the kids get it from. But thank God I didn't get it. So Jason, if you want to jump on with me on Halloween, I said Thanksgiving, on Halloween, we'd love to have you. We'd be honored to have you on, and we could do the show together. I think it'd be a great show. Jason's definitely an asset to have on your show.
Change that real quick.
Is this working or what's going on?
Yeah. So the link is out there. I think we're just waiting on people to join.
How will we know if they're in?
this thing down here that says collab cam. It'll show them.
Okay. So if anybody wants to come on, like, you don't have to show your face.
Yeah.
You can just talk. Come on and ask questions, interact with us. And somebody says, don't eat food, period. Yeah, I literally the other day I had nothing but like one of those little bags of dried almonds, no salt. And I was just so busy running around doing patrol and doing all stuff. I didn't even eat. And then I had another situation where I tried to fast while I was dealing. Thank you, Cutler, for that donation. Trying to fast, and then they said, "Well, with gout, don't do that." And I'd gone almost 3 days and just wasn't hungry. The pain was so intense, I didn't want to eat.
Anastasia Sanchez says, I have a story to tell. Well, you can join the show and tell it if you like. The link to join the show is pinned at the top of the chat. You just click there, and then it'll just ask you to configure your microphone and your camera, but you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to be.
And I know there's a ton of people who sent us their stories. A bunch of people. I know, because I get attacked for it. You didn't tell my story, you piece of crap. I hate you. I'm still going to watch your show, but I'm going to hate you while I do it.
I don't like you.
You got 3 men and didn't get you. Banjo, you falling asleep, buddy? Huh, Banjo?
No, he was.
Hey, buddy. You falling asleep? Banjo, you're nude. Put some pants on.
Acting like a damn animal. Didn't raise you to be no animal.
All right, Jason, we'll see you later. Thanks for stopping in.
Okay, we got somebody here. Show on stream. Dick Richards. Okay, so
Oh, it's Richards. Hey, man.
we got to put the headphones on and make sure that we can hear him, and then we have to make sure that they can hear him. And if not, then I got to fix some settings. Hang on. Okay, Dick, can you hear us?
Dick, can you hear us? I don't know. I guess not.
I think we can hear him. Can you hear us, Dick?
I don't think he can hear you.
Okay, let me see. Oh, this thing doesn't ever work. Can you hear us now? I guess he couldn't get it working.
Billionaire Playboy says, I always imagined he would look like that.
Let's see. Let me change something right here. Do this. Okay, hang on. Adjust some settings here. Okay. Can you hear us now, Dick?
I don't guess you can hear us. The heck was
I don't know
that?
what that was.
Whoa.
Okay, let me,
That's the aliens pissed off because we're talking about them.
You
yeah.
have been summoned.
Oh, man. That's weird. It kind of sounded like how that hissing noise. Because you said it kind of staticky and hissing. And... Great.
Okay. Okay, let me try this again. I don't know why this thing isn't working.
Well,
But I think it might have been muted.
that'll stop it right there. Under fire. We have such sights to show you. Yeah. We have such things for you to hear. I'll move the camera for just a second.
He said he couldn't see us.
Oh, okay, and he can't see us, so I'll be
I
right
don't know
back.
why. Try it one more time, Dick. Let me see if we can get you in here. Because the settings on this collab cam are kind of weird sometimes. Let's see.
Anthony just messes things up normally. This is why we bring the dog, so you can forget about stuff like that. Just look at him.
Come on. Stream not found. Okay. All right, I'm going to generate a new link. And I'm going to paste it and pin it again. All right, join the show. All right, try that link now if you wanna join.
We believe in you, Dick.
Gotta get this damn thing working one way or another.
This is our technical difficulty screen right here.
I don't know. Can anyone else join? Can anyone else try to click that link and okay, we got. Okay, show on stream. Okay, can you see us now? Can you hear us now?
I still can't see you guys.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, so we can hear you. Can you hear us?
It could be on my end as well, though.
Okay, but can you hear us? Why can he not hear us?
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is aggravating. Okay, let's try this. Can you hear us now, Dick?
Yeah, I don't know.
You can't hear. You can't hear anything.
Well,
That is so annoying.
should have used StreamYard.
Let's see. Yeah, StreamYard is better for bringing people on.
But so what's going to happen? We're going to do the continuation of this story. We're going to find out what happened to him. And we have
Yeah,
another.
sorry guys. I'm just getting nothing but black on your end.
I have no idea why.
all
it's-
agreed
Can you hear
upon.
me? I don't know.
We can hear him.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Well, a good
Stacey Lewis
tactic to
said
use is
echoing.
just
Might be
blame
my
Richard.
end. Sorry.
Chat.
It says I've got everything on at the top here.
Okay.
Rats.
Thanks everybody for being patient. Well, we try to figure this out.
Well, a lot of people weren't. They left. They were just like, these people can't figure it out. See ya.
Well, I wasn't thinking them.
We'll
Well,
have to do this when we're on StreamYard.
we're just going to have to scrap it. Sorry, folks. We wanted to be able to do that, but we just couldn't do it. Obviously, it just didn't work out. So.
Future plans doesn't work out today.
So, sorry about that. We apologize. Somebody said turn off your ad blocker. Plus, you can't post comments that people make, to highlight them through this format here. Keem was in here messing around with stuff, and then when we came back after our hiatus, stuff wasn't working right. But, so, like I said, over the next several days leading up to Halloween, we're going to do you a solid, and we're going to drop some hour-long podcasts. The people on Spotify, one of the ladies that was talking about Spotify, she is a listener, and she was the one that was working at the CBD place, whatever. And she was like, yeah, I listen to you on Spotify. And you haven't dropped anything in a while. And I was like, no, we drop stuff all the time on YouTube. And she was like, oh. Like they can't go to YouTube or something. They're just like, oh, I can't do it. I want to.
The home improvement sound plays.
But I can't. If I go to YouTube, my head falls off. And I'm like, oh, wow. Well, don't do it then. I definitely have an excuse then. Guess just wait around until I can drop something on, whatever. But there's a lot of people. They just will not do YouTube. They just will not do it. I don't care. I'm pretty sure you could break into their house and point a gun at them, and they'd be like, "Nope, you're gonna have to kill me because I ain't listening to YouTube."
YouTube.
They're just not gonna do it, dude. It is just too much. YouTube is right out. Sorry, we thought we could do this, but I guess it's just too much.
Anthony told us we could,
this.
but
Monitor on output. I don't know.
that's the way to do it, Missy.
Yeah, send me Stacy. Send the email. Yeah, there you go. Stacy says her show screen doesn't even show a way to click it.
You might have dismissed the pin message. Because it's at the very top of the chat. It's pinned up there.
We got so many people we need to record with, too. We are just, it's so hard because we have to come into town because we have no internet out there. So we have to come into town to, put the recordings on, we can do the editing out there, but we can't. So it is very frustrating. We're living like Schitt's Creek, dude. I'm telling you, it's bad.
If you want to try one more time, Dick, I found one setting that I changed that hopefully will fix it, but I don't know. Okay, let me see. Okay, Dick, can you hear us?
Yeah, I still can't see you, boys.
And you can't hear us either, I'm
I don't
assuming?
know what's going on with that.
Okay.
It's too bad.
Well, I guess it's just not going to work.
Sucks.
He's right there on the screen. This
The
stupid
sound
thing.
is
I can't hear the show either because I just have my cell phone on and it's not going to it's not on YouTube right now, so I can't hear what you're
Okay,
saying.
well,
Oh, okay.
okay, so let's cut it. So we got.
I'll even try to.
Sorry, Dick. Sorry to everybody. We thought we could get it to work, but I mean, it's not working. So anyways, thank you for your time. Thank you for sending in your stories. Thank you to Wayne for that incredible story. And we're going to get out the next one of what happened to Billy and what he knew, what he saw. His is very interesting. Okay, what happened to him? Because it was a lot more in depth All right, then. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. If you want to join the Patreon, please do. That helps the show immensely. It's a $10, $20, $30, $40, $50 tier. And, of course, you get a different swag bag for each tier. After you've been on the tier for 2 months, then we send you a swag bag. If you're owed one, let us know. And after you've been on for 6 months, after you get your first swag bag, you get another one with the new updated merchandise. And so if you join it, just become a member and you'll be in green. You'll be entered into the giveaway. With what's going on now, though, we can do the giveaway because we have to go check our mail now at the annex. So we're going to pick 3 people. If you want to jump in and become a member, it's not too late. You can join. But if you're in green, I'll give you 5 minutes here to join and become a member. If you're in green, you are entered into the contest. If you're not, then you're not entered into the contest. You can also gift memberships to people too. So we're gonna pick 2 people tonight. We're gonna pick 2 people, and then we'll be back on again on Halloween. On Halloween, we're gonna do a big giveaway. We're gonna pick. So what you're gonna have to do to get your stuff. Okay, this is for shirts and a book. All right. So in order to get your stuff, you're going to have to join and become a member. And you gotta send the information to the email, joshturner@prtpodcast.com. If you want to join the Patreon and get a swag bag, it's patreon.com/prtpodcast. We're going to be giving away the shirts that we got recently. They're the camouflage shirts, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Tony snuck off to go to the restroom. Do you want to go grab one of the shirts?
Sure.
The 2 different ones and show them. Somebody says here, Anthony got to fail to connect. People said the demons are messing with the stream. Probably. Always something weird going on when we start talking about this weird stuff. So if you hang in there for a minute, we're going to do the giveaway. We'll pick 3 people tonight. We're going to do 6 of them on Halloween. We're going to do a 3-hour show. And then we're going to have call in. We're going to fix it to where you can call in and tell stories. We're going to talk about ghosts. We're going to talk about shapeshifters. We're going to retell people's encounters. It's going to be epic. And for the next 3 days leading up to it, we're going to drop an hour-long episode. Okay? So you're going to have that. But let me know if you guys want to do a stream on Wednesday. I was thinking about doing an extra stream a week, and I think Wednesday being the middle of the week would probably be a good time slot. Paranormal Roundtable. There you go, right there. And then we have this one. That one right there. And we have the others too, the different logos. There's one logo for each type of shirt. But Josh Sprague at 7 Clay's been trying to get a hold of me to come up there and do it. And like I told him, until now, I could hardly walk. But now that I can walk and move around a little better, I'll go pick them up and we'll do what we got to do. So those are the shirts we're going to be giving away. And then we still got a lot of hoodies.
Yeah.
Halloween, we're going to do like 3 of these and then 3 hoodies. We're going to give away an autographed copy of my book with each one. So that will be cool.
Yeah, that wasn't StreamYard,
Dang it.
Dick. That was Streamlabs. It's a different platform.
Sorry, folks. Work. I hate work. I'm so sick of work. What I gotta work? So stupid.
Why can't everything just be free?
Why can't they just kick in communism and we get stuff for free for a week and then all suffer forever?
Should have voted for Bernie.
Well, you got the option to go vote for a communist right now. So here we go. Who wants to be in the giveaway? If you're in green, let me know in the chat that you have not won. We'll start with people who haven't won. And if there's not enough people that haven't won, then we'll move on to the next. So who hasn't won? Shelly Baxter says, I've never won. Let's do this quickly because we got to record. And then we got to do the patrol. So Shelly, you've never won. You win. I pick you. I'm going to do this. This is not a democracy. To hell with that. I'm in charge. We're just going to go. I'm going to pick people. Dawn of a New Day says, I haven't won. There you go. So there's number 2. Send me your information, your shirt size, and your address, or I won't be able to give you anything. Yeah, this isn't a democracy. It's a republic, right? And I'm Caesar now. I've taken it over. And that's Anthony. That's Mark Anthony. Right? So, and Tony's Augustus. We don't really like him, but he's okay. We'll deal with him. All giveaway winners, send your shirt size and mailing address to joshturnerphpodcast.com. Right? Mm-hmm. Or the Senate of the Emperor of Rome. Senate of the Emperor of Rome. The Senate of the Emperor of Rome. Rome. Rubbish. Anyways. All right, so Dawn of a New Day, you got it. You won. We got, who else won? It says, Shelly and Dawn, nice.
Franny Wants to Know says, it would be my first.
Who?
Franny Wants to Know.
Franny wants to know. Where Franny says, it would be my first. Okay, you win. There you go. That's it. Simple as that. 3 people, 3 of the giveaway. We got to get recording because we got something to do tomorrow. Do you guys want to see us again on Tuesday? We could do a show on Tuesday and then come back on Thursday with a live. So we could do a recorded show. Then we could do, a live on Tuesday, right? Mm-hmm. Then we could do a recorded show on Wednesday, then a live on Thursday, then drop the other recorded show on Friday.
Yeah.
How would y'all like that? An entire week of PRT. How would you like that? Or are you satisfied? Are you satisfied? Because if you're not satisfied, then say, look, we want more. Right?
Are you not entertained?
Are you not satisfied? Are you not entertained? So, yeah, this next story. So to tomorrow's story, you got a choice. We have a story of a minotaur. It is a weird story. And then there is this lizard type thing, I don't know, from Australia. We got one from Australia. And then we got, what's his face's story to do. Tell me, did we do Agnes's story from when she came back from Petra? Do y'all remember that? I know there's only 300 people now in here, but I don't know if you remember that or not. Because I could have swore I told it, but I might have been telling it to a small group of people and just didn't remember.
Yeah, I don't think you told it on stream.
We did know?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Agnes, no.
Yeah, the chat's saying that they don't remember you doing it either.
It was part 1 episode. Yeah, so we need to do that because I think I might have told a little bit of some of the stuff that happened to her. But there was this one thing that was attacking her that was so insidious, and it was bizarre. It was like this red and black thing. Mm-hmm. I remember we were talking about that. There was another guy that sent us a story, and we were talking about it. I think it was what it was last night. We were talking about that thing. It was like red and black. Mm-hmm. What was that? I can't remember the story. I have to go back and look. We were half asleep last night driving around trying to do the patrol. It was red and black. Did you eat your food?
Oh, you mean the barbecue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank goodness for good people like Trey Felton who got us through the rough time here, and Paige and Richard Platts. Oh yeah. Thank God for people like that. And then the other people who helped us.
A lot of people went above and beyond.
They did. Us. Like we couldn't use my credit cards because they were doing the rescore. And then we couldn't spend our money because our money has to all go towards the house. And so, shout out to, they made this, the Stark, House Stark. This is the beef up version of my original pendant. And he gave it to me and I told him I can't pay you for it right now. I just can't. But Max said, wear it. Give me a shout out. So Jewel City, Max Khan, Kahn, Max. That's the guy. Did a great job. You don't get a lot of Minotaur stories. A lot of and I have a theory about that because when they were created by Tiamat, a lot of them were wiped out. But this one definitely was not. And the vampires of Mexico. Let's see what we got. Let me give you a little teaser here for those who have stuck around. I was going over these with my brother. Let's see. So we got the Vampire of Mexico. That's a weird one. The Polish Werewolf Zombie Stories. The Flying Creature of Latvia. And then we got the Man Wolf of the Puerto Rican military base, which mirrors another one near Fort Hood. Really weird stuff. So that's what we got on tap, and then a million other things going on, dude. And so we're planning on dropping Carlos's story in like a 2-parter because it is a bizarre story, and we're going to put that one on the podcast because it gets a lot more people reach the podcast. So then any headless stories? Oh yeah, we've told stories about that kind of stuff, weird stuff. In fact, Jason Bland, who was in the chat earlier, he came on the show and talked about the flying green head.
Hey.
So all good. We're going to get recording. We're going to do this. We're going to get it, and we're going to drop it out to you Monday night. Tomorrow night will be a recorded episode. And then because we got to get our sub count back up because we got to keep growing. We got to keep growing because the overarching theme of the show is to learn, too. That's what I want. That is my envision. That's my envision. What the hell? That is my vision. Okay. But it is what it is. You have the haters. They're over there hating, just talking about us constantly. Who cares? Who cares? They're so irrelevant. They're like, take a magnifying glass and burn them with the sun. I mean, like, dude, that's how... Don't even get me to these people. They come up with the most wacky, outlandish crap, and then they say, we're talking, but nobody talks about you. Nobody does. So my doctor was talking about it, and he was like, who are these people? Like, I was like, we're like laughing about the stuff that they say. It makes for good entertainment, though. It's comedy. Like, you want to go to Paranormal, what's it called, PRT News? If you want to laugh, you want to hear, you want to see, when you start to think you're crazy and you're going, I'm cuckoo bananas with it, go read PRT News. You will laugh and then laugh some more because that's what I do. I just sit there and I go, holy crap, there's some people that need mental help. But it is what it is, man. It's a funny, it's just nutty, man. But we have fun here at PRT. That's what we do. And so we're going to get to it. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for the winners that won. You're what makes PRT what it is. Just join the membership. You won't regret it. And then you can, win because we don't put anything behind a paywall. So that's how it works. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. For the 350 that are still in the chat, we love you. Good night.